It's time. It's time. It's time to start the live stream. We are here getting out the nutmeg, and somebody says they didn't see the notification for the live stream in their. Darn it, YouTube, get to work. But welcome in. If you've found this live stream, I am your host, John Townsend, and we're going to talk about fun 18th century stuff today. As per usual, I am joined behind the scenes on the other side of the time vortex by Lauren in the chat.
Hello.
And Ivy on the console.
Hi, everyone.
They're working hard back there. Well, okay, they don't look like they're working hard, but I am sure that they are. Today we're going to be talking about lemons because, well, and other citrus, because it's one of those topics that comes up, and because I recently did a whole giant episode that had to do, not giant, a whole episode that had to do with lemons, and so I thought we would go ahead and kind of double up on the research and kind of keep going. That's always really helpful when we can do an episode and then I can use some of that research and go into the live stream with it. And every time we go into a topic, even if we think we know pretty much all there is to know about it, you always find more neat stuff like people stealing lemons and all kinds of fun stuff that we found on this episode. So super thank you to all the folks out there who are chiming in from all over the world. Always amazing to see far-flung folks dropping into the Nutmeg Tavern. So we open up the doors and you never know who will show up. So welcome in and get a drink, have a seat by the fire or by the open window if you're someplace that's too hot. See, that's the fun thing. While we're here, we can adjust the tavern to do anything we need to do. So the episode that's coming up is not the lemon episode because we've had to string a whole bunch together because it's getting really busy around here. And so Ryan, this week's episode that'll come out on Sunday is Ryan's take on coffee eggs because he's the coffee guy. So I don't know exactly what his take was on coffee eggs because I was only there for a little bit of that one. So I'll just have to find out what Ryan thinks about coffee eggs. I mean, I said yuck, but okay. They weren't just horrible. Anyway, coffee eggs.
You ate them and you're like, I can see why someone would like these, but I'm not sure I do.
Is that what I did? It's been a while. It was time to revisit coffee eggs, and so Ryan's going to do that. Lemons, and I was really surprised by some of the artwork in this episode because of what was going on with how big the lemons were. So generally, we see, if we go to the store, we might see lemons this big, and I've always been under the impression that their lemons were small and green, and we would more interpret them as limes than lemons. But the reality is not the true. I was just wrong. What's new, John? Anyway, so we'll have some pictures of lemons, and lemons are. As I was doing online research early, lemons are very interesting. Lemon limes, the citron that they apparently come from, oranges, they're not, as ancient as one might think. And even the concept of something like lemonade is not super early. Like, you don't see apparently references until you get to maybe the 10th century and kind of really laying it out until the 12th century. So some really interesting stuff about lemons, and it's quite likely that the lemons were a lot like, if you see images of, do we see any of them that are cut in half?
We will see some, yes.
Do we get the impression that they're more pithy?
No, I wouldn't say that from the ones I've seen.
Right. So, my big question was, and I think those like early citrus fruits were a lot more pith and peel basically than they were, the nice fleshy juicy part, that we actually eat. Like if you look at 17th and 18th century images of watermelons cut open, you see that there's not very much pink in there compared to today's watermelon, and pretty soon they'll be pink on the outside, right? They'll get rid of the peel altogether. That's one of my questions about lemons and citrus in general. So maybe we should jump into some of these images, and we can kind of jump in and out of that. We kind of broken the images up into 3 sections: the fruit themselves, people interacting with the fruit, and then writings about the fruit. So let's just jump in. And this is meant to portray and there's the main image on the left-hand side and the kind of inset image on the right-hand side. The quantities of varieties of lemons, limes, and oranges, and who knows what else in there, maybe citrons or whatever, I don't know, in the time period. So this is 1750, and it's an Italian piece. And look at each one of those. They aren't just like, oh, look, 7 different, pictures of the same lemon. No, those are all different varieties. Do you remember how many there were listed there?
I do not know.
So
I think, let's see, 1, 2,
like 25 or something?
Yeah, I'd say there might be as many as 30.
Right.
And so, and of course we see down here at the bottom it's listing which types they are, but
Right.
my guess is that's probably in Italian, so I don't know exactly what
it's in Italian. So, but if you look, there are basically like little tags on each one with a little number, and then there's the index at the bottom. Not very interpretable in the short term. I'm sure it's been translated by someone. But we can see this massive quantity and variety of citrus fruits that were available, at least in some places in, say, Europe in the 18th century. So very surprising to me how big some of them are, the interesting colors they've got, the shapes they've got, especially these weird ribbed ones. So even that's in that close-up.
Very pretty.
Whoa. I mean, I want to see that.
Yes.
That is really, really neat. Maybe we're missing out today in that we don't have all those varieties. I mean,
With a lot of our fruits and vegetables,
Right.
the varieties that come to us are the ones that ship well.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot more apple varieties than we necessarily see, but they're not good.
is another still life. We've got one. This is a Spanish still life showing oranges in jars and boxes of sweets. But notice these oranges, they look a lot like today's oranges. They're not navel oranges, but obviously, and then now this one's interesting. Same artist, I believe. And these are limes. Look at those things. They're not small, and they are not green.
I'm thinking they're probably the our limes are probably quite a ways off from these ones, or maybe they just look different.
Maybe.
But I would love to test them against our limes to see how far apart they are.
Yeah. So what is this limoncello
Oh.
or limoncello?
Well, and there was another back in the tree one. There was one mentioned that I had not heard of, and it was different, and I think it was like a lima, right? And I had never heard of it, and I looked up, and there it was. It just had a different. The limoncello is a Italian lemon liquor. It looks great.
Wow. Sounds fabulous. So let's skip on. 17th century Dutch images. Probably both of them. We've got some kind of gnarly looking citrus there, like a lumpy lemon and orange and something that's been peeled. And I mean, it looks in that peeled one, obviously, that it is got basically the same amount of fruit interior that we would expect to see. Even on the right-hand side bun, again, we see it being peeled in an odd way. Do people peel lemons like that? You know, kind of cut the...
I'm thinking the artist is doing it to make it look cool.
Well...
And to show off his ability to do the translucence.
Yeah, but, well, and obviously, look at the silver ewer.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
Watch me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the 17th century ones with the lemons in them.
Yeah.
They're just like when they're doing glass or reflective metal. This is the artist saying that they are a good artist, and I agree with them. They are a good artist.
So on the right hand side, okay, he's only 80% there. Looks a little washed out. Keep working at it. A little flat. You can do better than that. Anyway, I should be an art teacher. That's not good enough. Let me tell you, I didn't have a lot of good experiences with art teachers in school. So this is a very interesting image, Lauren.
I love it.
1615, and it does not look 17th century. Number one, the angle. That's not a typical angle for them.
I love the colors. I just love his little details.
This feels very late 19th century or even early 20th century.
It does, and how everything's spaced and there's a lot of room. That is not normal. They like to pack things in, but I like it for a lot of different reasons. But it did have a lemon in it. That's why I managed to get it into this slideshow.
Yeah, I would jam it in there one way or the other, even if I've got to insert it with AI.
Yes, I added that lemon in there.
Added a lemon in there for me. Okay. Something we have to be careful of these days.
So
true. The trotters in there. Whoa, that is so cool. I think those are skirrets or those long, skinny root vegetables. I don't know. Yep. I thought skirrets were hairier than that, but
maybe they shaved.
And their greens don't look. If you know what that little root vegetable is, you can actually see in the full
picture the greens a little bit better.
Yeah. Maybe they're weird, long. I don't know what they are. Anyway, are those peaches up there?
They may well
basket?
be. Yeah, maybe
they're
nectarines.
Small.
Something like that.
Plums.
Yeah, one of the reasons I put this picture in here is that we were kind of talking as we were kind of prepping this and wondering whether if they associated using lemons as a flavor garnish for fish dishes the way we do. Right. And we were kind of just looking through some of the cookbooks, and it did seem like that was quite common. And here in this picture, the lemon is right next to the fish, and I was wondering if that was maybe visually them kind of drawing the comparison. You're like, the lemon goes with the fish. They go great together.
There are a number of recipes here. I've got a hand of glass, and here's to boil a turbot. And it's to boil, even though, you don't just boil it forever, right? It's seethed. Anyway, down here at the bottom it says, lay the fish in the dish, garnish with scraped horseradish and lemon, and pour a few spoonfuls of sauce over it. And then on lemons included in baked salmon, into the dish, pour a little plain butter into the dish, and take the juice of a lemon, or you may bake it in any dish, and when it is enough, lay the slices into another dish and pour butter and wine into the dish it is baked in, and give it a boil and pour it into the dish and garnish with lemon. This is a fine thing. Squeeze the juice of a lemon in it. So it is, now a lot of them don't necessarily, but some of them are specifically, it's like, yes, let's hit it with lemon, or let's hit it with vinegar, or butter. I can't go wrong with that. Anyway, so that's the fish, and the fish was right there in the shot. A very interesting kind of sliced and diced poor fish there. I don't know exactly how they. Now this is interesting this image is interesting in the fact that it's interesting to me to see the presentation. What they're doing with certain things. Mm-hmm. And because presentation was a thing, at least for, middle and upper class people, maybe not so much for, poor people, but it's hard to know exactly what they meant by the how it was supposed to look on the table.
Yes, it's so nice to see. You're like, someone will describe something, and you're like, it's their visual, and so sometimes you will see a still life, and it'll give you some hints as to what they meant about some of their display instructions.
Exactly. Okay, so here we go, 1772 Spanish, and we've got salmon chopped in half there, which an interesting grain and whatnot, and then blunk, a lemon, not a small lemon, in there, and then early 17th century. Now you've got two different dates on that, 1601 and 16.
Oh, it's a range. It could be anywhere.
Somewhere in the first half of the 17th century. And do we know what is it? An orange? Is it a?
I think it said. I think it is an orange. I think that's what it said.
So again, with the let's cut it and peel it, and okay, yeah, I'm learning. This one on the left. Oh, we're jumped out of people. Let's jump back into. Do you have any questions?
I don't know if I ran across. This is a question pertaining not to citrus, but somebody had ran across a recipe for a drink, and it said to use a goodly amount of nutmeg, and they were wondering what your opinion on what a goodly amount of nutmeg would be.
Nutmeg, you be judicious with your nutmeg. It's a public service announcement. PSA, be judicious with your nutmeg, because nutmeg is powerful stuff, and it can do things to you, and so you should always be careful with your nutmeg. So
just a few rasps.
A goodly amount. It depends on how many servings we are talking about here, or how many you're going to ingest. But so yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is aromatic, so you don't need a ton of it.
Freshly grated, 1 or 2 little rasps per serving, and you're good. This person was making a comment. This is off topic, but I've recently been making a lot of the recipes featured on the channel, and I made the onion pie, the 1700s biscuits, the chicken pie, and the trifle, and all of them turned out really good.
I'm always amazed, by working through these cookbooks, as simplistic as the directions are. Of course, that gives us liberty, doesn't it? That I rarely churn out anything horrible, if that's a way to say it, right? I mean, there is the occasional, they shouldn't have put this and this together, right? So, witness the crab stuff, whatever that was. What was it called? It was bad. It was just bad. Two things didn't go together with the modern palate, whatever it is. And sometimes I think they just screwed up in the recipe, right?
Well, sometimes you wonder, was their palate different, or perhaps the flavor profiles of one or both of the ingredients were so different then that they would have gone well together because they were basically using a different ingredient.
Yeah, too true.
Because sometimes you're like, maybe it wasn't the recipe, maybe the shift over time is what's causing this, the clash. And sometimes I think we're a little timid in our seasoning. And when they say put in a goodly amount, we're kind of timid, and that can make it a bland when it's just, if we tried it 1 or 2 more times, we're like, we could have gotten just the right balance.
Yep.
So, but some of them, like the onion pie, right? Not really something I've run across us having currently, even anywhere regionally that I've run across. But very good, right? Yeah. Should make a comeback.
Yeah, some of them are just killer, and they certainly were lost in history, and other ones are like coffee eggs, and they were lost on purpose.
And Dad's like, someone. So here's a super chat from Speed Style Tony. How many recipes have you found that use both the zest and the juice?
So you don't see them. Zest isn't an English term that's used in the 18th century, but you'll find plenty of them that talk about the peel, just cutting peel. They may talk about, being careful about cutting the peel. And there are many recipes where we would use the juice, and they're really relying on the zest to do all the work. And in fact, zest is where most of the work is done with lemon flavor. Of course, maybe that's just something that I thought when I was a child or something and brought it into adulthood. It's like, no, the lemon flavor is here. It's like, no, it's all really in the peel. So in the episode, I kind of go into that. It relies heavily on the zest, but it does use the juice, and we see both of those going on. So it's not uncommon to see either one of those being used, and sometimes both in recipes, along with the use of orange flower water to just triple down, right? I don't know. Orange flower water, it's too, like rose water, it's so aromatic that we interpreted it as soap.
Yes.
So it's hard.
It's hard to get over that.
Right.
The connection is just too distinct.
Yeah, orange flower water isn't nearly as bad, and it makes an interesting kind of additive, pop to that. You certainly see it in some of the recipes, but not a ton.
Yeah, I think probably what we would use would just be orange extract.
Right.
Would be what we would comparatively use, and we get along a little bit better because we're more used to it as an addition. So this person's saying, I'm going to make a white pot this weekend, but instead of fruit, use chunks of chocolate. I've done it before, and it's pretty delicious. Thanks for bringing that into my life.
That's like cheating.
I know. I feel like that sounds like a great plan, and I don't know that you can go wrong adding chocolate to things.
Well,
it's an update on the...
It melts, whereas the original,
I feel like it's
raisins
perfectly
don't
acceptable.
Melt, but, as long as it doesn't do weird things, and they'll probably just make molten pools of wonderful chocolate, and throw me on that.
Okay, so what's your favorite citrus dish? This isn't specifically historical, so you can pick whatever citrus dish you like.
I tell you, I'm all about key lime pies and lemon meringue pies. Oh. I would eat them until I exploded and died, and I would die happy.
What do you think was the most common thing to use citrus for in the 18th century?
I don't have a great answer for that right off the top of my head. Let's look at this. We'll hold this one kind of in our minds, right? And I've taken Hannah Glass's The Art of Cookery. I just went through her index. Now the index isn't going to give you everything that lemon is used in, so because I didn't have time to do a giant word search and have a 1 zillion post-it notes sticking out of this. But we've already talked about using it for fish, and probably maybe a quarter of the fish recipes specifically talk about it. But here is making a lemon sauce for boiled fowls. So there's a lemon sauce for poultry or birds or whatever. Then we had our fish recipes. We jump ahead and we get to pickle lemons. So today we would not do that. We have lemons available to us all the time, but they did things to preserve their lemons, like store them in salt or preserve them in a pickling. And this one is, take 12 lemons and, you do this and that. Sometimes instead of zesting, like this one talks about take 12 lemons and scrape them with a piece of glass and cut them, doing this stuff with it. Sometimes they would take lemon, and to get the flavor, they would rub the outside with sugar. That would kind of, it would take the oils and it would put it into the sugar. So here is to pickle limes. You don't see oranges as often, and oranges are a whole different topic on their own. Here are 2 recipes for lemon cheesecake, common to see in these cookbooks. Here's a lemon cream, another very, very common style of recipe where we're taking 5 large lemons and we pare them as thin as possible and steep them all night in spring water. With the juice of lemons, strain it through a jelly bag, and so we're trying to get sort of the lemon flavor from the peels, and then using the lemon juice to extract some of that. Then we take the whites of 6 eggs and 10 ounces of double refined sugar, and we basically take that and just that water, the lemon juice, the sugar, the whites of eggs, we put that over the fire until it turns into a cream, and kind of thickens up, and wow, that stuff is really good. There's a second lemon cream. There's an orange cream. I don't think there's a lime cream. Here is now this one. So I didn't have a chance to read this one, so let's take a look. To make lemon honeycomb. Sounds very interesting. Take the juice of 1 lemon, sweeten it with fine sugar to your palate, then take a pint of cream and the white of an egg, put it in some sugar, beat it up. As the froth rises, take it off and put it on the juice of lemons till you have taken all the cream off upon the lemon, and make it the day before you want it in a dish that is proper. So this doesn't have anything to do with honey or honeycombs, even though it's called to make a lemon honeycomb.
Maybe they do a visual that makes it look like a honeycomb.
Good question.
I mean, they didn't really.
Yeah, it's like, come on, Hannah. Tell me what's going on
Tell
here.
me more.
And then here's how to make the clear lemon cream. So a different lemon cream. Here's how to make orange loaves, or I like this one, to make a lemon tower or pudding. So it's used, generally, at least when it's in the title, it's used as a dessert. But it's also used, ingredient-wise and other things. Because how many different acids do you have to work with in the 18th century? So, so bringing in that acidy, sour flavor, which of course we want, to balance certain things out, or to give it a punch when it needs one. Some things is just like, what? There's just nothing there until you put some acid in it and, give it something to go with. Lemon and vinegar are the 2 big go-tos. Sometimes they use verjuice, kind of sour grapes, but not so much.
Yeah, somebody was saying, so is lemon not popular and or widespread for meats to cut the acidity?
Yeah.
And, when we were looking through one of the cookbooks, specifically for the fish, but before that, it was pairing it a lot. They had it with tripe and sweetbreads,
Right.
the pancreas. So it seemed like with a lot of the organ meats and some of the tougher stuff, they had it.
So have you put in the chat the videos?
Yes.
So one of the videos was beef.
Yes.
With using the acid from lemon. That's an 18th century thing.
Right, and it had vinegar too in it, but it also was using the lemon. And I kind of dropped in the different ones. So cheesecake and the lemon cream, and the beef one, and the video you did about preserving. So, and those are in the description too, if you want to look for them there instead. Okay, so did you ever run across orange flavoring for ice cream?
That's a good question, and I have not done a lot of ice cream work recently, so none of that is fresh in my mind. So I don't know. Lemon ice cream sounds really good, though.
Mm-hmm. So Max Arkle sent in a super chat. 18th century lemonade, was that a thing? They're already having switchel with vinegar. Was anyone ready to make that jump to lemonade?
So that's the episode that's coming up probably after Coffee Eggs, that's the episode I was working on, which is specifically lemonade. And lemonade is very 18th century. In fact, it kind of explodes in France which sounds dangerous, but it's not like this. It gets very popular in France in the middle of the 17th century, so much so that they had, there were, out of the list of the top 10 vendors in Paris, Lemonade Cellar is up there in the top 10. It's that popular, and they would have people going around, sort of walking around with a tank on their back, selling lemonade, and so it's really popular.
Okay, so Eric F. has a super chat. What ingredients do you suspect were more common in America in the time period that we don't see as much in cookbooks written for upper class people of British descent? Do you want me to read that one again?
Yeah, it's kind of...
Okay, I'm going to read it one more time. What ingredients do you suspect were more common in America in the time period that we don't see as much in cookbooks written for upper class people of British descent?
I see. So what was common that we probably miss because the cookbooks that we have are for upper class British?
Yes. Right?
Yeah,
and
super
corn, venison.
Yeah.
Cranberries, maple syrup.
Things like, right.
Yeah.
Cranberry is a good one. You almost never see it. It is listed in Amelia Simmons's first American cookbook. Cornmeal, any kind of corn. You're not going to see it in British things. You're probably not going to see it in upper class things. Lots of things like salt pork is going to be so much more popular. The more regular people are eating salt pork a whole lot more than you ever see it in a cookbook. It's just not. It's like you're not going to see it. It's not. They don't talk about using it in recipes except once or twice. I think the sea pie talks about having salt pork. Salt beef is the same thing. There's some things they just don't use, even though it was a ubiquitous ingredient for common people. Things like ship's biscuit or, different things like that just don't show up in those high class recipes. And boy, people are just, their diet is probably 75% those kinds of things, day in, day out. Bacon, chicken, right? And there aren't that many recipes for it.
It does mean that you're like a lot of you know that your idea, if you're just looking at the cookbooks, your idea of what everyone is eating is very skewed, but it can still help give you hints about what's going on.
Right. In fact, we kind of pick out things that we call them, recipes. They would have whole chapters on what they would call made dishes. These are made dishes, and they're almost like, here's something fancy the cook did. Then regular people aren't. That's not how regular people eat. So, everybody else is like, well, I cooked this meat. There you go.
Okay, so Jaji says, as he sends in a super chat, I survived my trip to Mystic Seaport and made it back halfway through the live stream. So,
very, very good. I'm glad you survived that. That sounded very dangerous.
Didn't get swept up.
Every week I try to get to the brand new and renewing YouTube members and Patreon folks. So I've got Eric Marshall, new and renewing YouTube member. Kingdom Minded Warrior, Steve Mahoney, Jeremy Mullen, Chad Parkhouse. I think it's Papa Legbatunas, Rob Dick, Martin Malmquist, Christopher John Martin, Sean Ellis, and I think it's Ho Ting Yao. And then I didn't have any new Patreon, but instead I thought I would bring out some of the Patreon mega supporters. Thank you so much. Leslie Spivey, John Gibson, Sandy Hoskin, Lisa Fittenhoff, Vincent Romano, and R.G. DeStolf, all super long time mega Patreon supporters. You guys deserve applause 24/7.
Okay, so let me Oh, okay. So here you want an update on our pie question. Did you know there was a pie poll?
No.
Okay, Ivy has started a pie poll, and it is
50-50?
It is 50-50, right down the middle of key lime pie and lemon meringue pie. So Lily Shambles says, as a Brit, I don't think I've ever had key lime pie. Unbelievable! I didn't know it was possible.
I am appalled. Well, they are key lime pies.
It's
of course,
true.
You don't really get key limes from the Keys anymore. I mean, they aren't exported from the Keys. They're just like occasional person you steal their limes. But other than that, I think most of them come out of Mexico or something. The little tiny limes.
I mean, it does mean that making a key lime pie is a bit more of a challenge because you got to work with them.
You're just going to fake it and use regular limes.
True. It's so true. Okay, so here's a super chat from Speed and Style Tony. Did they use any citrus for cleaning?
I didn't have this question earlier, so, or else I would have tried to do some quick.
Yes, hunt it down.
I'm going to give that a big maybe because I can't be firm either way on that.
I was thinking about that chart of the way things reacted with each other, and like copper had the acid of lemon,
Right.
and I was wondering if that meant that they did use it to clean like copper pans and stuff. But we did not look at that specifically, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah, you caught us out on that one. Buddy.
Right. Okay, so this one, let me go back to it because I'm going to pronounce it wrong otherwise. Ever try oleosaccharum, and that is Latin for oil sugar, so a traditional method of extracting essential oils from citrus peels using sugar. But when you made those lemon puffs, is that kind of what happened? So when you did the candy episode and you made those little with dragon,
Right.
is that what you did? Like you put the...
It's been too long, Lauren.
Okay.
I cannot remember.
I actually
I'll have to
think
rewatch the episode.
I know. Dad's gonna have to rewatch this episode. I think they did not call it that, but I think it was a similar method where you took the peels of the lemons and you
rubbed the sugar on them.
You kind of laid them in sugar overnight, and then you used the sugar. So it was probably very close to that. Okay, so I think we are caught up.
Okay. Let's jump in. So super interesting image here on the left. This is Dutch, middle of the 17th century, and this is an inset. We pulled in really tight on the image, and it's a courting scene, and the imagery. At least apparently some people have suggested, right, that the imagery is one there where she is trying to cool off the relationship. Lemons are a cooling food component, unlike ginger, which is like a heating thing, right? Lemons are a cooling one. And if you look at the image overall, notice how the background wall is like lit up. Everything in the background is stark. It's in brilliant sunlight. They're in the shade of a tree, and everything's flat and dull in this part of the image. But if you look, she's got that lemon right over her glass, and she's squeezing the lemon. Probably, it's like time for you to move on, bud.
And you could ask, you're like, okay. Is that what it means? But the Dutch painters specifically used a lot of imagery in their art. So if you're looking for kind of a story being told through the image, there's probably
more than likely one there.
Yep.
Even if it doesn't say so. Even the person standing behind him, it has that kind of look on her face, like. Anyway, there's the image that I used for the thumbnail. Just gorgeous image. Just soft and it's got that lemon cut exactly that same way, like it's peeled but then it's cut.
I'm true. So in the chat, Shaji just said, "I love the Dutch school citrus peel presentation. I've spoken with experts who judge modern painters of that style by whether they get the peels right? Like it's an artist thing. Like, can you do a lemon with the peel?
Keep trying, bud. So, very beautiful. Here we have 18th century images, and we've got a street seller of sweet China oranges. So, the main oranges that you see referenced to in the cookbooks are two kinds. You see Seville oranges, which we know as bitter oranges, or we don't know as bitter oranges. That's the problem. And then there's China or sweet oranges. And I believe that's much more likely close to the kind of oranges that we see. So the vast majority of orange recipes use the Seville orange, which we, I believe, sometimes call the marmalade orange. They are completely different. Like, they're the bitter orange.
Yeah, so it'd probably be more accurate to kind of use a lemon to get the kind of
possibly
tartness
a lime.
profile.
I don't know. I really don't know. We don't have access.
Yeah.
I cannot buy a bitter orange.
Yeah.
It's not like, what, are you just going to order it on Amazon or something? There's certainly none at the grocery store. So, I mean, if anybody can send me a box of bitter oranges, I'll say super thank you, and because then I want to know what's going on. Anyway, then there's this middle image here. Probably it's Dutch, right?
This is Amsterdam.
Yeah, Amsterdam. And look at the size of the lemon. I mean, he's not a leprechaun. The lemon is huge. This is at least as big as the biggest lemon I've got here. It's bigger. It's bigger. So, again, one of my misinterpretations or misconceptions, I guess, would be that, their citrus fruit was small and ugly looking and probably all green and everything was bitter. No, and here, look, he's a poor guy. He's a poor guy on the street.
Yeah, well,
So
I mean,
is
he's a lemon peddler.
They aren't like gold bars.
No.
I mean, obviously he couldn't afford them if they were so expensive, which we can think, oh no, they never had lemons because they would never be able to afford them. Well, here he is walking around with a basket of 30 of them.
Right, and where we do see them, like the one on the far left, this picture with the sweet oranges, that's London. And then this one in the middle, Amsterdam. And then I think again on the right, I think she's London too. I don't think that's Paris, I think it's London.
Yeah.
So all of these are port cities.
Yeah.
Or centers of commerce.
Yes.
And so they're definitely, I do think that on the frontiers,
yes, of course.
Oranges, like somebody was talking about how at Christmas time, people might get an orange in their stocking,
right.
And how they were very special. So they aren't the easiest thing to get, but also, especially in port cities, they're not that hard to get a hold of either.
Right. So let's not say no one had lemons. Now, if you're in Kentucky, you might not have lemons,
Yes.
right? But all along the eastern seacoast of North America, you're going to see newspapers, and they're going to have advertisements for lemons, and they can't be that expensive. So this is Hogarth, Midnight Modern Conversation, with the debauchery of the well-to-do in the 18th century, early 18th century, and all these people had a long night of it. Notice the punch bowl in the middle. It's huge. There's a giant punch bowl, and they've probably filled it and emptied it multiple times. There are people falling down. There are people falling asleep. There are some people that look like they're still doing fine. I'm surprised we don't have anybody throwing up over there. But,
Seems like that'd be accurate.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. And let's look in the corner here. So their table, look at that. The table's got a clock on it, but it's all covered with lemons. And look, they all look like to cut that special artist's way to
Yes.
it. And under the table, all the bottles of wine that went with the lemons. But they used a bunch of lemons in their punch. So one of the classic ways you're going to see lemons used is basically a hot alcoholic lemonade. right? And they just call it punch. Here is a lemon strainer. So we don't see the classic squish the lemons over the little
I think what
thing.
we think of as our squeezers, when I was looking it up, those seemed like they were coming in during the 19th century.
Right.
But we do see strainers like this. And this is a Paul Revere strainer. And it's specifically saying this is to help when you're making punch. This is to keep the seeds from getting in your punch. You don't want that to happen.
You don't want to see that. It
No,
might choke you
it's
when
not
you're
going to
half
taste as
drunk.
good.
Yeah. You died from a lemon seed. Lemons are referred to specifically in medical circumstances. So here is somebody who's being, I don't know what he's being treated for. Let's say he's sick. That says carbuncles on his bloated nose. Whoa. Anyway, we see on the table the lemon cut exactly the same way again. It's like you can't show a lemon without
I'm
it cut that
wondering,
way.
so because they're not cut using the lemon squeezers that we think of,
Mm-hmm.
I've never hand squeezed lemons other than 1 or 2 times, right? I'm wondering if this helps with hand squeezing.
Maybe.
Like if there's something about it, that there's a practical reason for this.
I mean, maybe if you left that peel on, the juice would follow the peel down.
Maybe we are missing a practical reason for this because we don't hand squeeze our lemons anymore. I bet there is one. But
Well, if you got an idea, you can chime into the chat with
Yes.
that. Anyway, there's the lemon on that, and it's used medicinally. So there's a long reference, like a couple of pages, where Voltaire, there's a story about Voltaire being sick with the smallpox, and smallpox is really, really, really bad. Anyway, he is sick with smallpox, and he credits his doctor with curing him with basically lemonade for, like, it takes a couple of months, and he feeds him nothing but lemonade. He says something like, 200 doses of lemonade or whatever. So he was cured of smallpox with lemonade. So you don't see a ton of medical references. I mean, I'd have to pop into my Quincy's dispensatory to see. It might have fallen out of favor by the 18th century, but you certainly see lemon in a more medicinal sense.
And I forgot to look it up before we started, but scurvy is something that they would have been using citrus for.
Well, but they didn't. I mean, yes and no. They're. Of course, we have all these stories about, they learned about it this way or that way. It seems like some people really knew that the citrus was the thing, and then other people, like for 100 years, people are like, no, it's vinegar. Vinegar is what's going to help you. Whatever. So I don't know what to tell you about that. Here is the late Dr. James Malone's recipe for a cold, which he most strenuously recommended. I wonder if he died of a cold. Anyway, we take a teacupful of linseed oil. Woo! Licorice, raisins of the sun with water, and we simmer it. 1/4 pound of brown sugar candy powder. What could go wrong? Old rum, best white wine vinegar or lemon juice. And so there you go. Lemon juice is used in that cure for a cold. If it doesn't cure you, I don't know. A cupful of linseed oil be good for you. Okay, flaxseed oil. We use it in food. I'm not sure if it's actually good for you, but people seem to think so. That's what's going on there. Here is, if we look at the a left-hand side, find fresh lemons at $4 the box. Too bad we don't know how big the box is. We just have to apply to Thomas Randall on Spruce Street. And then notice the time of year too, December 22nd or 20th.
Perfect for Christmas.
The little middle column there. Who has for sale, just imported from a brig from on a brig from Malaga. We have wine, we have raisins, figs, prunes, grapes, oranges and lemons in boxes, shelled almonds in the cask. So I think there's even one more reference to lemons on that page somewhere. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, there we have, just arrived, again from Oporto, from Portugal. We have port wine, duh, and boxes of lemons, 150 boxes of lemons. So come and get them. So here, this is a story from a newspaper talking about Daido and whatever. But this is the reference that Lauren finds at the bottom. Here it is, the female is sipping the bumper on the drink, the wine, whatever. This is a female practice in our day, and the custom still continues inviolate. But how strongly does the poet mark the contrast? The bowl no longer gets into the hands of the man, then instead of sipping, he swills it and bumpers it off. In other words, drinks it all the way down to the bottom, and never leaves it until it is drained as dry as a squeezed lemon.
So they're not letting any of that lemon go to waste.
Right.
They're
So
using
even
it
the
all.
lemons, they're not cheap, right?
No.
So you're gonna squeeze it all out. And there we have it. And I didn't print out the court case. So there are lots of court cases too. If we look in their court cases, we find people stealing lemons, people stealing lemon peel, maybe
Quite a
even
bit,
more common. So cases of lemon peel. And there was one court case that was a confectioner, and he thought there was stolen from him oranges and lemons in a box.
Yes.
Right? And they bring the apprentice in to try him for this. And the testimony of the apprentice isn't until toward the end. The person who received the goods said, "No, I bought just the box, right? I didn't get the other things, because I would have noticed that. I mean, a box has a bunch of lemons in it." And the apprentice finally speaks up. What have you to say for yourself? And he's like, "I am so sorry to even bother the court. I am so embarrassed by the fact that I stole a box, and that it's bothered me ever since. And I throw myself on the mercy of the court," which is very, very rare.
That is
you
unusual.
do not see that usually
you don't see it.
in court cases at the Old Bailey. They finally come to the conclusion that he just took the box, and they fine him 1 shilling.
And I think they send him to the military. Like,
Did it say
I
that?
think that's what happens. I think that he is enlisted. I'd have to reread it to make sure, but I think that's what happens. And they give the box back to the owner, and I think the court takes the oranges and lemons.
And there was another one where somebody was stealing oranges or lemons specifically, and they were like piecemeal selling them. It's like he was like stealing them 1 or 2 at a time, and he would wrap them in paper. I don't know if the single ones were wrapped in paper normally, but he would wrap them in paper and then sell them to this person. They kept buying them, and then finally it's like,
I wonder
"Where are you getting these
all these
lemons? Sure, maybe you're stealing them, huh? You think that?" Anyway.
And then there was another one where someone had stolen, they'd broken in and gotten just a ton of silver of all these assorted different pieces. And one of them was a lemon strainer.
All right.
The precious lemon strainer.
Lemons do show up. People interact with them and stealing them and whatnot. So lots of fun stuff. What else do we have? Do you have any more?
I don't know if I have any more questions. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Yes. Writing from, this is Luzery, a super chat from Luzery.
Okay.
Writing from Old Fort Herod State Park, what are some things that poorer people usually ate while traveling? Was it usually preserved or made caught?
Poorer people traveling. Well, it really depends on the context, doesn't it? There are some times when you're traveling and There's no like caught to it, right? So if you're in the backcountry, you're going to be surviving on a lot of, catch as catch can if you have the time. Now, some people are traveling and there's no, hey, let's stop and find some food, right? It's like we have to go from here to here and we have to make it in a particular amount of time. And so you're going to be carrying your food with you. So you're going to have salt provisions. You're going to specifically have flour, cornmeal, chips biscuit, whatever, so that you can get there without worrying about stopping. And then there are other people that are traveling, like say Nicholas Cresswell or Lewis and Clark. Yeah, they bring along some things, as many as they can. Like, Cresswell wanted to bring more supplies along with him, but it wasn't available. So they knew they would have to get supplies. They would have to catch things on the way. But then we have other circumstances where we have people traveling. If we read like early Benjamin Franklin traveling when he's young, and he's not rich, and he's, kind of bum along and spending the little bit of amount of money he has, and so he buys a loaf of bread here or there, right? But he's pretty abstemious in the first place. He's one of those kind of people. So there's always some little kind of things that you can get, but that's traveling sort of in the civilization versus not in the wilderness kind of situation.
Like for short jaunts, like day trips, bread and cheese seems to be a real classic. Like they are extremely portable and not terribly expensive, or just maybe even some bread and butter.
Right. You stop into a tavern, you might have a glass of wine and some bread and butter. Mm-hmm. That's what you're asking for.
Yeah, and maybe some biscuit, maybe some wine and some biscuit, and
maybe
just and really like it seems like bread is just, maybe beer as kind of the liquid companion to that. Is,
well, you don't ever have to fix it,
yeah.
Right? It's good for a couple of days. Regular bread is, and it can serve in a lot of different roles. And I get it. Anyway, I'll stop there.
It's a good baseline. Okay, I think we're all set. Are you ready to?
Yeah. So super thank you to all you folks that chimed into today's live stream and help us out by sharing our videos and showing up and being that encouragement each and every week. And it takes a lot of encouragement sometimes to keep whacking at it. It's always fun though. Thank you to all the folks that are Super Chat and Patreon, and the folks who go and look at the merch and buy special mugs and this or that. I'm working on some other projects that are similar to that, and that should be a lot of fun. So thank you for your very kind care of us. I hope you have a tremendous weekend. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Ivy. Mm-hmm. And thank you for being here today. Have a great weekend.